Hello everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks very much for joining me. Today I'm doing the assembly tutorial for the 3D hanging lantern. This project has been designed by Nicole Silhouette here on YouTube, and I shall link her YouTube channel in the description box below. The 3D hanging lantern is available as a cutting die set in Beki Store, and it's also available as a digital cutting file in Nicole's Etsy store, and I shall link both of those in the description box below. So let's get started. I've got all my pieces cut out, and for today's tutorial I am using the digital cutting file. So here are all of the pieces. These pieces here I'm holding up are the sides of the lantern, and there are 6 of those. There's also this piece here, which is the door to the lantern, and you can see where I've put the double-sided tape. I've also put double-sided tape on the back of each of these pieces because I'm going to adhere the acetate windows to them. And you can see there that I've got the double-sided tape on the back ready for the acetate. Except for one piece, I haven't put it on this piece here because that is going to be where the door will go. So the acetate piece will go in the door piece, not the actual side of the lantern. So I'll talk more about that a bit later on. These pieces here are the top of the lantern. And you can see I've gone ahead and folded along the score lines and put double-sided tape on the glue tabs. And I want to show you here the way you fold it. From the top, the first fold is a mountain, so is the second fold. Then the next fold is a valley fold, then a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain, and another mountain, and the last one is a valley fold. So that's how the piece should be folded. I'll go through that again. The top one, mountain, mountain, valley, mountain, valley. Then we have another mountain, mountain, and a valley. And one more time. Top's a mountain, next one is a mountain fold, then a valley fold. The next one is a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain fold, and valley fold. And of course all of the ones on the sides are mountain folds, they fold down. So you'll do that to the remaining 3 pieces that are left. And then we'll move on to the next piece, which is the bottom of the lantern. This is folded in a very similar way. So we have from the top mountain, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, mountain. So I'll go through that again. The top is a mountain, the very top is a mountain, another mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, mountain. It's a little bit different to the top, but essentially it's the same. And the reason why we fold these like this is to give both the top of the lantern some shape and also the bottom. So I'll do that one more time. We've got a mountain, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, and mountain fold. And there are 6 of these pieces that make up the bottom of the lantern and 6 that make up the top of the lantern. Moving on, there are 6 pieces of acetate, and these are the windows of our lantern, and they're going to be attached on the inside of the sides of the lantern. Also in the digital cutting file and the metal die set, there are these pieces here which are lattice panels for the lantern. These are optional, you don't have to use these if you don't want to, and for my lantern today I'm not going to use them, but I will show you a lantern at the end of the tutorial where I did use the lattice panels. Next up we have these hexagon shapes. These 2 without the centre will get stacked on top of each other like so. Then we have these 2 smaller ones. The larger of these 2 gets attached to the top part of the lantern. The smaller one gets attached to the bottom part of the lantern like so. And of course we have the decorative panels. So to begin with, we're going to start putting our lantern sides together, and we're going to put the acetate windows in place first. This is a decorative panel, I'm just moving that to the side for the time being, and I'm going to put the acetate piece onto the door. So I'm just removing the backings off the adhesive so I can put the window in place onto the door. So I'm just going to put that acetate piece in place, taking care to line it up as precisely as I can, and then press it down. Like so. Now, if you were going to put in the lattice panel, which I have here, you have a couple of choices. You can put it behind the acetate like so, and it would look like that from the front, with the lattice behind the acetate, or you can do it the other way around, with the acetate behind the lattice piece. It's up to you, it's a personal choice. I'll show you what I mean with the side piece here. So if you wanted the lattice piece to be in front of the acetate, it would go down first, and then the acetate would go on the top. So the acetate would be behind the lattice, like so. Whichever way you do it, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever you prefer the look of. But like I said, I'm not using the lattice panels for my lantern today. So with the door piece now, I'm going to put this panel, this decorative panel, into position. And I'm doing that to cover the adhesive from where I stuck down the acetate. It's just to make it a nice, neat look. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. This is going to be on the inside. So I'm just lining this up and being as precise as I can to get this piece into place. And that's our door. I'm going to put that to the side for the time being. We won't put that in place just yet. And I'm going to take this side piece here that has no acetate window, because that's where the door is going to go. I'm going to put that to the side. So again, as I mentioned before, if you're going to use the lattice panels, you have the choice. You can have the acetate in front of the lattice panel or behind the lattice panel. Depending on the look that you want, it's up to you. So I'm going to move on now and put all my acetate windows in place on the sides of my lantern. So I'm going to speed up the footage here whilst I put all these acetate windows into position. You can fast forward this if you like. So I'm just getting all the acetate windows into place on the sides of my lantern, and I just have a couple more here to go. And I'm going to put the sides of the lantern together. So I'm going to remove the backings off the adhesive on the glue tabs and join two of these side pieces together. I'm taking care to be as precise as I can, particularly at the bottom here where you need to angle the pieces to the glue tabs. And I'll show you a bit more of that in detail in just a moment. And the more precise you can be here, the nicer the lantern will look at the bottom. So the score lines do help with that shaping. So I'm just starting here at the bottom. I'm going to join that first glue tab on, and you can see that I'm angling it before sticking it down. And it's taking the shape that I want for the bottom of the lantern. And I'm going to continue in this fashion until all of the sides of the lantern are together. Just taking my time, being precise, making sure that those glue tabs get into a good position at the bottom of the lantern. So I'm just getting this second last piece into place before moving on to the side piece that has no acetate. So again, just taking care here, lining it up along the glue tab, making sure that the shape is taking effect on the bottom of the lantern there, and then joining it up with that last glue tab at the top. So I've got all these sides in, and I've just got my last piece to go in here, and it's the piece without the acetate in it. That's where our door is going to go. Just getting it into position, taking care to line things up precisely. And now I'm going to close up the lantern. So just taking the backings off the adhesive and then closing up the shape. Just taking care to be precise. And that's all our sides joined together. And we've got one side there that has no acetate on it. So the door will go here, and that's the piece that has the acetate, but I'm not going to put the door on just yet, as it's going to make access easier just to leave the door off for the time being. So I'm going to move on now and put the top of the lantern together. The top of the lantern is these larger pieces here, and there's 6 of them. And you can see here that I'm removing the backings of the adhesive on the glue tabs, except for the top one. Don't take off that top pointy backing just yet. And we're going to join these pieces together like so, taking care to line it up as precisely as you can and follow the shape that you made when you folded along the score lines when I was saying mountain, valley, mountain, valley. And you can see that that forms the shape of the top of the lantern. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of the pieces for the top of the lantern. I'm going to speed the footage up now whilst I join these pieces together. But even though the footage is quite fast, you can still see that I'm taking care to line things up as precisely as I can, and I'm following the folds of those score lines to create the shape of the top of this lantern. So you can see where the mountain and the valley folds are and what shape that creates for the top of this lantern. And the more precise you can be here, the better. So I'm just getting this last one into place, and then I will close the top of this up. So I'm just closing this up now, taking off the backings of the adhesive. And taking here, I did try to join it from the bottom, but it is actually easier to go from the top like I'm showing now. Just get a good hold with that top one, and then the rest of them should fall into place nicely. And all that's left to do with the top of this lantern now is to put this little top piece on. So I'm going to remove the backings off those little triangle tabs at the top and put one of the smaller hexagon pieces, the one that fits on this particular area. I'll put that into place. So I've got that here, and I'm just going to stick that on. And it fits perfectly on there. Just going to push it from the other side as well to make sure it's in place well. Once I've got that into place, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick the decorative layer that goes on that top into position. So this is the little decorative layer. And once I've got that glued down, I'm going to use this. It's like a brad, but it's for a draw pull. And it's the same as a brad, it's got a split pin, and that's going to go in the top. So I'm going to glue this decorative layer in position, and then I'm going to get my pokey tool and poke a hole in the top to put that brad through. So I'm just going to do that now. And put the brad in place. I will link down below in the description box where I got these from. They are draw pulls, but they are brads because they have a split pin. So I'm just splitting that now on the inside. And then I'm going to also put some hot glue underneath it as well on the top there, just so that it's in position nice and strong. And I'll be able to hang my lantern using that. So I'm going to move on now and put the bottom of the lantern together. And it's kind of like a smaller version of how we did the top. It's a little bit different, but not too much. Now don't worry about that bit that's missing. That's actually intentional. It's so that you can create the shape better. And take your time and follow the shape of the folds that we made with the mountain and the valleys. It helps create the whole entire shape of the bottom of the lantern, like the top. So I'm just taking my time here, putting this all together. And I'm going to speed up the rest of the footage here, because by now you will know that I'm taking my time, I'm lining it up, I'm being as precise as I can, and I'm following the shape of those score lines. And this is a smaller version of the top. So just getting that last piece in place, and now I'm going to join it up. Taking care to line it up before pressing the glue tabs into place. And once that's all joined together, then I'm going to put that little hexagon in position on the top. So I'm going to remove the backings off those top pointy glue tabs and put that little hexagon into place. Like so. And once that's stuck down, I'm just making sure that all the other glue tabs from the inside are stuck down. So that's the base of our lantern nearly done. And I'll bring in the top and also the lantern. And the bottom will go into place like so. So I'm just going to remove the backings off the adhesive on the bottom of the lantern here and get this ready for the bottom to be put into place. So that's now ready for the bottom to go on, but before I put that on, I've got to put something inside if I want to put a candle inside it. So that's where these hexagons come into play, and I'm going to glue these two with the holes together. It's going to make a nice strong base piece, and I'm going to affix that inside on that, like it's like a shelf in there almost, and it fits this piece perfectly. So that's going to get glued inside like so. And then with the other hexagon that's there, I actually decided to cut two of those because I wanted it to be a little bit stronger than one layer thick. So I cut another one and I've got two. And I'm going to affix them one on top of each other so that they're 2 layers thick. And that'll be just a little bit more stronger. And that's going to get glued on top of the other 2 pieces that we just stuck in there. And that's a nice strong base. I'm going to be putting in an electronic candle into my lantern, but you could easily stuff this with fairy lights. So the bottom of the lantern is going to go into position, like so. And this is where I realised I probably should have used glue here and not double-sided tape, because it's giving me trouble because it wants to stick before I want it to. But I persevered and got there in the end. So when you get to this part, you could actually use glue instead of double-sided tape on that bottom glue tab on the side pieces of the lantern. Also the top, because I have ran into the same problem with the top too. But I persevered and I got there in the end. So I'm just making sure that that's getting a good hold all the way around, just pressing it from both sides. And you can see now our lantern's taking shape. For my lantern today, I'm wanting to use an electronic candle, and I got mine off AliExpress, and this is it here. It's electronic, it switches on, and it has a very realistic looking flickering flame at the top. It measures around about 4 1/4 inches, about 11 centimetres from the top of the candle to the bottom, and it's about 1.5 inches in diameter. I'll link it down below in the description box, but when you do go to AliExpress, you'll need to just be mindful of what size you'd like. They come in 3 different sizes. And when I put mine inside my lantern, it doesn't really sit in there very well and it moves around, so I decided to make a little holder for it. And to do that, I got a piece of cardstock and I cut it to 5 inches long by 1.25 inches wide. And along the 1/4 edge, I put a score line and cut some triangular glue tabs. And I then made a score line here at about 1/4 inch so that I could make a glue tab on the side. And this will fit around the candle perfectly. So I'm just notching that in so that it will sit nicely when I glue it together. and you'll see that my candle will fit in there nicely. And then I'm going to push these glue tabs down, and this will go inside the lantern like so, and it will hold the candle. So I'm just going to put glue on those glue tabs. And position that inside the lantern. You don't have to do this, of course. If you've got a different type of candle, you could use that. You wouldn't use a real candle, of course. If you've got an electronic candle of a different type, you could put that in. You could also put fairy lights in this, as I said before, so you wouldn't need to worry about doing this. It's totally up to you how you want your lantern to look. Fairy lights would look cute. So I'm just checking to make sure that my candle is going to fit in there nicely, and you can see it's not going to move around. I'm just going to take it out very carefully and hold that in place for a bit while that glue takes a hold, and I'm going to leave it alone now whilst I work on the top of the lantern. So I have the top of the lantern here, and that's going to go into position like so. And I'm going to take the backings off the adhesive on these glue tabs at the top. And this is where you probably could or should use glue, because I did have trouble because the double-sided tape wanted to grab before I was ready. And usually I would do one side, then go to the opposite, but I didn't on this. And it became a little bit difficult for me. But I persevered and got there in the end. So you can just see I'm just fluffing around, making sure that things are lining up nicely and that the top's going in place how I want it to. I'm just going in from the inside, making sure that those glue tabs are getting a good hold on the inside. And our lantern's nearly finished. So I'm going to move on now and stick the decorative layers into place on the outside of the lantern. I'm still going to leave the door for a little bit longer. And I'm going to put all the decorative layers in place first. I've sped the footage up quite considerably here. It's quite easy to see where these panels go, and I'm starting with the panels that go around the windows first. And I always like to put my decorative layers in place with glue, because you've got that wriggle room to be able to manoeuvre things exactly where you want them. Double-sided tape becomes a little bit too grabby when you want to get things into position just nicely. So this lantern in particular has quite a lot of options. You could give this lantern so many different looks just by the cardstock you use, whether you use the lattice panels or not. Normally I would like to do a lantern in black, but it does make it hard to see on the tutorial. So this one I chose white, and I wanted it to have a cracked paint look to it. And I just so happened to have a piece of that paper in my stash. And I thought it was perfect for this lantern. So I'm just putting the bottom layers on the bottom of the lantern. And then I'll move on to the layers for the top. And for these layers, it was actually helpful to fold it in the same way with the mountain and the valley folds. It made the layers go into place really nicely. Just getting these last couple of layers into place. And then I'll move on to putting the door in place. And our lantern is nearly finished. So I have the door here, and I'm going to put it into position. I'm going to remove the backings off the adhesive on the side glue tab, and that just gets placed on top of the panel that's already there, like so. Just going to press that into place, and there we have our door. So it's time now to put some magnets on our door so it will close and stay shut. And I'm using little mini magnets, and I'm going to glue 3 along that edge there, 1 in each corner and 1 in the centre as I'm showing. And the glue I'm using to do this is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte. And I found that good to stick down magnets. And how I like to do this is I like to get 2 magnets that are magnetised together, and I'll stick them down in the 3 spots that I want to put them. And then I'll go and put glue on the top of the top magnet, and then I'll shut the door down onto that glue and hold it into place until it dries. So I'm just putting the glue on top of the magnets here, and that's the top magnet. And then I'll shut the door and hold that into position until that glue dries. So that's the assembly of this lantern finished. The decorative layers are in place, and now all that's left to do is the finishing touches. So I'm going to go ahead off camera and do that, and I'll be back shortly. So I've gone ahead off camera and I've decorated my lantern and it's finished. You can see I've used flowers in my favourite colour, which is purple. And I can hang my lantern with this draw ring pull, which is a brad. So just giving a look at the bottom there, and the door opens. Just get rid of those glue strings from the hot glue. And you can see that there's a holder in there for the candle. So I can put my candle in once I turn it on. It sits nicely in that holder. Shut the door, the magnets close it, and that looks really nice. So I did make another lantern and I used the lattice panels, and I have it here to show you. The paper I used for the decorative layers on this lantern was some purple metallic that I had in my stash, and I embossed it with an embossing folder from Altenew called Angled Mosaic, and I love the way that this turned out. It gives it a real glitzy look. And I did the holder inside for the candle in exactly the same way. But I didn't use any acetate nor vellum on this particular lantern. You can see I can put my finger through there. So you don't even need to use that if you're going to use the lattice. It's up to you. There are so many different options that you can do with this particular lantern. The lantern is quite large. It measures around about 11 inches in height. So it's quite a large lantern. But they do look great, I have to admit. I love mine. I particularly like the one that I've done on the left. It's my favourite. But the lattice one does look nice too, so it's entirely up to you. So many options. So that's my tutorial finished for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching and that you feel inspired to make one of these lanterns. Don't forget to check the description box down below for the links that I've previously mentioned. And if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would really love that too. Thanks very much for watching today. Have a great day, and until next time, it's bye for now.